Families care very deeply about their children, but many of them feel so unprepared to guide them through that digital world, which is evolving so fast. We didn't grow up in that world, but we have to deal with situations that now this digital world is creating for us. So, our approach here is really to build an awareness, not fear of technology, but build that awareness for them.
You're listening to the smartsocial.com podcast, your trusted source for real-world tactics that keep students safe and help them to shine online. I'm your host, Josh Ochs. Each week, I sit down with K-12 superintendents, district leaders, and community voices who are shaping digital safety. We discuss wins, struggles, and strategies used to guide students so they can be safe and successful online. Now let's get back to the conversation.
Hi, my name is Priya Darbari. I'm superintendent of Keppel Union School District. We are a small school district right on the outskirts of Antelope Valley. We have 5 schools. We are a K-8 school, and we have very specifically 2,666 students in our school system.
Superintendent, it's so great to have you here today. Before we get started, I want to ask about you. Tell us, where did you start your education career? Did you start as a teacher? And if so, what kind of teacher did you start as?
So that's a great question. And I have a very interesting journey too. So I started out as a 4th grade Montessori teacher in San Jose. That's where I was. And then once I moved up to Southern California, I was a high school English teacher in a very small rural school district. That was the best experience of my lifetime, my educational career. I grew in so many ways. From there on, I soon transitioned to be a principal, got a different perspective, how decisions matter when you're at that level. And then I went into the district leadership side of the world. I was a director of curriculum, and then I moved to Keppel as an assistant superintendent of curriculum instruction. And I think that's really where I began to see the impact our decisions truly make for students and staff. And I really thoroughly started enjoying the work I was doing. And now as a superintendent, I think having those various roles in place have given me the lens that I need. I'm able to put myself in various positions throughout the district to see what my teachers really need, who are sitting right in front of students and supporting their learning. So I value the experience I had. I value the journey I had. And yeah, here I am.
It's so great to have you here. And for all of our audience, whether you're a parent, a guardian, a superintendent, or anyone in between, today we're going to have a lot of parenting tips, some district leader tips, but you just saw the superintendent light up and say, this was the most fun I've ever had in my career. And that was typically, for most superintendents, we hear it's when you're younger in your career, you're interacting with the kiddos. Is that right? Is that part of what made it so much fun?
I think so. And I think, you just feel like you're touching the students' lives in so many different ways. As a teacher, you're having that direct impact, but your impact is not far removed, no matter where you are in a district. And to know that you have a whole team that you can sit and plan with to make sure that the positive impact in students' learning matters more and more. I think, the superintendent's role is really a great role to be in, because you get to collaborate with so many different people and really, really great, talented people too.
Yeah, it's amazing. Well, I want to dive on in, Superintendent, to some questions. We're going to start off with some safety questions. We're going to move into some parent engagement questions, and then we're going to get some dialogue starter questions and some other stuff. And I will be taking notes for all of our audience knows. We learn from every superintendent. So on a national level, we can take some of these tips and help parents. After 230 plus superintendent conversations in 45 plus states, Superintendent, we've heard a consistent trend. We've heard that students are growing up in a digital world filled with powerful technology, AI, and social media. And we're hearing in some communities, not all, but many of them, kiddos are lacking the maturity sometimes and the guidance to use these Ferraris that we're handing to them safely. I'm getting a phone call in mine right now, but this Ferrari for all of you listening right now is an iPhone or an Android, and they move so fast. The result we're hearing is more student absences, lower focus, rising cyberbullying, declining self-esteem, and AI misuse in the classroom. But we also have heard from parents, and they're saying that they're trying to raise good kids in a world they didn't grow up in, a world where now tech is moving faster than safety policies we hear. Teens know how to hide apps and online behavior, and safety lessons we're hearing usually come after a crisis. Superintendent, are there any other trends on this topic that you've seen so we can alert other school districts before they see them?
So, as a superintendent here in this district, I see firsthand how our small, close knit community faces the same challenges as a larger school district, but we often have very few resources to respond with. So, our families care very deeply about their children, but many of them feel so unprepared to guide them through that digital world, which is evolving so fast. Like you said, we didn't grow up in that world, but we have to deal with situations that now this digital world is creating for us. So, like we are surrounded by these larger school districts, things that are happening there are trickling down to us, to this community, where whether it's social media trends, it's cyberbullying, it's online safety, all of these concerns do land up in our schools as well. And what I'm observing also is that this digital world has amplified the challenges our students were already facing. So social media can heighten that peer pressure to a point where our students feel unprepared to face. They feel like that pressure is something they have to deal with day to day. And parents, especially in our community where they have multiple jobs that they're working with, they have very little time with their kids at home. So they tend to miss a lot of these things that during the day their child might be exhibiting, sorry. So at that same time, with that AI misuse could get unnoticed. So the adults that are in our system, of course, our teachers, our staff, and our parents, we all want to help. But in many ways, we are stretched super thin because we are, again, trying to balance so many different responsibilities. Parents are trying their best to raise their children, but their experiences growing up are way different than what our kids have now. So I think the trend that I feel I noticed is that blurring line between home and school in a way where students are carrying their digital world with them everywhere. Like you said, the cell phone that we all have in our hands, this is going with us wherever we go. So the issues that might start online at night might spill into the classroom the next morning. And this makes it very important for schools here that we have to work with our families as partners, because parents would know what's happening there, but we don't have that any information. So our approach here at the district is really to build an awareness, not fear of technology, but build that awareness for them. We want to make sure that our parents are well versed in what the children are really using the technology at home. What does that look like for them? And we saw a little bit of that maybe from a different side of the technology world when we all went in that online mode of learning during pandemic. We were getting a lot of parents come up to us to say, well, my child is on the computer all the time. What do you mean they're not doing their homework? But, children are always 2 steps ahead of us. So we had to make parents aware that there could be multiple windows open on a laptop or a Chromebook that they may not notice. So again, building that awareness is super important. So we are definitely recognizing the importance of that. We want to make sure we equip our students with the right tools. We want to make sure that we create that awareness for our parents, but we also train our staff to recognize those signs in our school system.
I take notes. So I wrote this down, build awareness, not fear. Absolutely love that phrase. And then also blurring the line between home and school. So true, right? And in some cases, bullying, October is anti-bullying month. Every month should be anti-bullying month, but October is. And that really there's a difference between 20 years ago, bullying between home and school. Now it's always in the kid's pocket and they're being bullied or made fun of or mocked at school, and especially at home, because that's all they look at and they're not right. Have you seen some of that? I mean, it's in every school district. It's not perfect.
It isn't. And, we see more and more, of course, with our middle school kids who have that device with them constantly. I was actually speaking to a parent earlier today, and she was talking about how her child he's too scared to speak up, where her son is getting blamed for things that are happening on school sites, where an apple was tossed at a child, another student, and her son was, kind of the recipient of the blame. She was telling me the story, and she says, my son, when I spoke to him, owned up that it wasn't me, it was another student, but I have to take the blame, otherwise I'll be beat up. And they are fearful of that. And she said, I asked him, what if you owned up and said, no, it wasn't me? He said, what we don't know, Mom, is that they say mean things on Instagram or, the social media world our kids live in, that people believe those things because these are the popular kids. So this parent was feeling a little helpless. Like, how do I help my child? How do I tell him, don't do this, or own up and say, this is not you, because he's so scared. And he even told mom that, okay, if you want to change my school, maybe that might be a good option, because as soon as you go talk to my principal, talk to my teachers, they will know it was me. And then I will have to take the consequences for it. I know that cyberbullying is a big factor that plays into our role. But what I'm also hearing from some of my colleagues is how AI is adding complexity to this already existing cyberbullying, right? Where it could be the same, like deep fake, it could be the same somebody's face and somebody's voice being used or activated to say or do things that are harmful for our kids. So it's just making things a little more challenging than they already are.
Yeah, so true. It's really scary. And as our audience knows, there's Nudify apps out now where some students will take a picture of another student and put it on an inappropriate photo, and the app does it for you. It's so scary. I want to lead into one of the biggest questions we get asked at our big parents. You know that we have free parent night events every single week, sometimes twice a week. Millions of people visit smartsocial.com. And parents often ask us in this season of life, Josh, what advice would you give to a student to help them recognize some of the red flags of a dangerous stranger online? Well, let's hear from a student about how she might help a friend recognize these red flags.
If I had a friend talking online to a stranger, I think that I would feel a little bit uncomfortable with the whole situation. I would advise against it because so many indirect issues can come from that, and it could cause something to be worse than if they had just unadded them in the first place. Some red flags that I would have to advise them to cut it off with this person or to stop engaging would be if the person starts to get very involved in their personal life and they seem to be very intrigued in what's going on with them and wanting to know all the little details about what they do and who they are, and just very personal details and things that you wouldn't normally share with a stranger in real life. If they're very persistent and constantly wanting to talk to my friend or constantly trying to be involved in their life or wanting to speak to them, I feel like that's kind of a red flag. Another thing would be if they ask them to ever meet them anywhere in person right from the start. If they feel a sense of being uncomfortable or their intuition is just saying it's wrong, or if my intuition is saying something feels wrong with this, then I think that's a major red flag.
Parents, remember, if you have a struggle at home with your kids, Smart Social's here for you with the most incredible free app guides, parent guides on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Snapchat, Fortnite, Minecraft. We've got Roblox, Netflix, WhatsApp, 450 more in 12 plus languages. You've got them natively in English, Espanol, Mandarin, and 9 more languages. And parents, don't forget that we've got these free parent events. Sneaky Ways video app keeps teens watching. Session 1, if you miss it, we've got session 2 a few days later. We've got a professional development for all of our amazing teachers out there, the same topic. We've also got session 3 and in Espanol session 4. And then we've got some more AI, all kinds of different stuff, and the hottest tips and trends as well. Parents, we're here for you. And we've got weekly live parent events, but also one of the things parents love, and the reason why you need to come out to our audience, is we have real teens teaching parts of the program. So your teens are less inclined to roll their eyes. And we love having you there. And then also a premium parent newsletter that goes with you, parents. Okay, so Superintendent, love to ask you this. In addition to during these conversations in hundreds of communities, we've heard from communities as well. Many parents feel overwhelmed, they say, trying to keep up with fast-moving online trends and digital safety risks. Students are finding ways to increase their screen time, we hear, and bend the rules, especially when the expectations at school differ significantly from those at home. And you said earlier, blurring the line between home and school, which I feel like kind of fits in there. Superintendent, what trends or pain points are you seeing when it comes to parent engagement? And where do you feel families are struggling the most to stay informed or connected?
Josh, that's such an important question, because when it comes to getting our parents involved, parent engagement is really the heartbeat of a school community. And even though it is one of the most core things for us to do, it is the hardest to get it right also, right? So making sure that we are reaching out to our families about these critical, important topics is so essential. But the way we reach out to them is also important. I'll talk about our school community. Our parents, like I said earlier too, are so busy with so many different responsibilities that they have. A lot of them are commuting to jobs that are down the valley, that by the time they do get home, it is later in the day. So they see a very little part of what their child will exhibit or show them. And because of that reason, it becomes even more imperative for us to be able to reach out to them, to be able to inform them. And like I said, we have to create this awareness that they may not know exists. Because I think for most part, we have a very reactive approach, right? As parents, we will react to a situation after it has happened. We react to a cyberbullying incident after a child reports this and this is happening because we don't recognize the signs before. So when it comes to this digital safety, the gap feels even wider than it was before. And we do have parents who tell us that, they feel like their kids are always 2 steps ahead when it comes to technology. So they sometimes say, we have limits. We have limits at home, how much time they spend on their screens. But then they find out, oh, well, the school is saying you have to do your homework on online platform or vice versa. So there seems to be sometimes a contradiction in terms of how much screen time the child should have, because the child will go home and say, we have homework. And that's the online or digital platform that we have to use. So one trend I've really noticed is that parents often hear about issues after a crisis, like I mentioned earlier, because again, this is a content that they are unfamiliar with themselves and is brought to their attention. So by the time all of this does come to them, the damage is done. So we end up in that reactive world. I think our families are struggling with digital platform a little more because it is that information that they need to have is not with them. And we have to think, how can we really crystallize this information and present it to a family so they don't have to read through 20-page packet, but it is something relevant. And it's not a one-time deal, but it is an ongoing conversation. Technology is growing day by day. Something new gets added, and by the time we are familiar with one part of it, things have already moved ahead. So our conversation cannot be limited to that one time back to school night. We told you about this, but we don't revisit that. We have to, as a district, constantly make sure that we are meeting families where they are, where their needs are. We are offering them these informational sessions, not just in one language, but in multiple languages that they feel comfortable with. We are holding events at times when they can attend because it's after work hours. It's convenient for them to be able to come. We try to provide childcare because, after hours, after dinner, where are they going to take their little ones? So we try to make it as easy for them to participate as possible. And then at the end of the day, we want to make sure that parents feel that they have the right tools to help their children. So our part is to be those partners for them who are consistent in our messaging so that when they are home, they can align those consistent expectations from school with their home. So I think communication definitely is a big one for us. And with my team, we are always looking for ways to improve it and get parents' feedback to make it even better for them.
I love that. My favorite theme so far, back to that communication, is building awareness, not fear. So great, those tips you have. For our audience here right now, one of the biggest things that we do each month is one of these big live events. And this month's theme, as I showed you, is Sneaky Ways Video Apps Keep Teens Watching. Next month is going to be, I think, the world's biggest anti-bullying campaign, where we have big anti-bullying nights where you can bring your kids and they learn how to look out for their friends. But in this program, one of the biggest questions we get is, hey, Josh, what are some tips to help my teen manage their screen time? Well, let's hear from 2 teens with tips on how they're resetting the screen time. And one of these teens actually has one of their parents help him out.
I just try to hold myself accountable about how much time I'm spending, because you can get lost really easily. While you're doing it, you think 30-second videos, what's the harm in that? But then when you've launched 4 hours out of your day, you feel a lot of regret. Why would I spend 5 hours scrolling on this app before bed when I could have been getting more sleep or being more productive throughout my day? My mom, she always lets me know when I'm just dead scrolling on TikTok for hours. Like, she usually tells me how long it's been. You should probably get up and go do the things that you need to do. So besides holding yourself accountable, it's really helpful if you have a parent or someone that cares about you to hold you accountable for how much time you're losing on those video apps.
Some techniques I use to stop myself from getting sucked into social media is being very aware of why I'm on there, as well as understanding how it's addictive. Even though it can be fun to just sit on the phone and scroll and lose myself in it, keeping in mind the things I need to do and setting aside the time to do that rather than falling into it like a trap.
All right, parents, you heard just now from real teens who are in our program, and we believe at Smart Social that the number one safety app in the world is a rich dialogue you have between your kids, because that's what's going to help protect them and get them to come to you. Sometimes they will roll their eyes, but here's a couple ideas you could use if you want to in the car ride to school or on the way home. When you're shoulder to shoulder, they say, some of the psychologists say it's the best way to get your kids to open up. You know your kids better than anyone, parents. And in addition, parents, you could use this around a dinner table if you like. But here's some ideas. Here's some questions, parents, you can ask your teen to have an open and honest conversation and help them evaluate the quality of the screen time and also learn. Maybe you could ask, how do you feel after your screen time? Maybe you could ask, does that app or activity make you feel stronger or weaker after an hour? Notice it's not a yes or no question, and it throws in, whoa, stronger or weaker. I didn't really think of it that way. Next, what screen time activities or apps make you feel stronger? And they might dive in and go, oh, this is what I do. Cool. And you're learning about your child and discussing screen time and navigating that together. What activities make you feel more focused or relaxed? And it could be actually when we do a road trip, or I learn about cooking, or whatever that is. And last, how much time do you think is healthy? And this is where your kids can set their own goals and you can go, whoa, well, that's great. And they have their own agency and buy-in and so on. Superintendent, what parent dialogue starters do you suggest?
I think it's key to point out to the teens that resetting screen time is going to be a conversation where it's going to be more of partnership based and it's not a battle. It's not a day-to-day battle. So like you said, it has to be that conversation starter while you're driving your child to school, while you're picking them up, sitting around dinner table. But start with that open conversation about screen use and how it makes them feel. I mean, very similar to what you just shared too. But maybe start setting some boundaries around, let's say it's a meal time, it's a dinner time, that no devices are going to be used. And as parents, we have to also model that behavior. So while we are telling our children, no devices, you cannot be sitting with your phone next to you. And I think as a family, if we start practicing some of these habits together, we are creating a sense of prioritizing basically the time spent together, that we are important. This is the time that we get out of the entire day to sit and just be us. So building that relationship is super important. And these conversations should really not end up in a battle, because if we start to approach it with a very heavy hand, then our kids are going to close up. They are not going to be willing to have a good conversation with it. So it's all about building those healthy habits, and it shouldn't be as a punishment. Having that open dialogue, like you said, is very important.
I love that. Resetting screen time needs to be a partnership, not a battle. I love that. And then heavy-handed, right? A lot of teens might say, you're preaching to me, right? I think that's so great. Superintendent, you took a lot of time out of your busy schedule to join us today. Thank you so much for your time.
I loved it. Thank you so much, Josh, for inviting me. It was a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you so much. For all of our audience, remember, it's all about keeping your kiddos safe so they can someday be successful using these digital tools. That means someday shining online. And one of our principles is remind your kids by your actions. And whenever you're posting, parents, consider keeping it light, bright, and polite, because they'll model what you do online. This is one of those shine online things where your kids someday have a positive portfolio that helps to get them where they're going. Their resume is eventually a thing of the past in PDF form. It's now their Google results or their online results and their reputation. And we want to help them to shine online. I'm Josh Ochs, the founder of smartsocial.com. We'll see all of you on the next episode. Have a great rest of the day. Thanks for spending time with the smartsocial.com podcast. If today's insights were useful, please share the episode with a fellow parent or educator and subscribe so you never miss our next conversation. And parents, make sure to join one of our next live online events each week to keep your family safe and also enter for a chance to win cool prizes. You can learn more at smartsocial.com. I'm your host, Josh Ochs, and parents, remember to keep it light, bright, and polite because your kids are watching what you're doing online. I'll see you on the next episode.